Hi everyone, I'm Kevin McKinnon with Triathlon Magazine Canada, and I am here with Jackson Laundry. Got your shirt on now, so we can't see all the scars, but I am living, or I can actually be a witness that you're recovering like crazy from your nutty accident.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's been about 10 and a half weeks now, and definitely a lot of tough days in there, especially towards the beginning. Before the surgery, after the surgery, shortly after, it was really tough. But since about 3 or 4 days after the surgery, I've been able to continually keep moving and just let the body heal through movement. So I've been stretching. I've been doing as much training as I can, and that seems to be helping a lot. Every time I kind of sit down and have a day of laziness or don't do much or sit in a car for a long time, then things start to stiffen up and don't feel as good. So the more I do, the better I feel, it seems like.
So you've got one more surgery, or I'm not sure. Is it just one more? You've certainly got another one coming up in a few days.
Yeah, I hope it's just the one more. It's supposed to be. So I just have to basically get a temporary piece of metal removed. Unfortunately, because of where my collarbone broke, they couldn't just put a flat plate on top and leave it. It broke right at the end, so they had to put this extra piece on to hold the end on, and that's causing some problems now. It seems to be my limiter at this point, where that piece of metal is actually causing a lot of irritation in some of the ligaments and tendons in that area. So once I get that off, things should actually improve a lot, hopefully, and it should be a very easy surgery to recover from compared to the first one at least.
Let's take a step back. So you're coming off an amazing season that includes a big win at 70.3 Tremblant, head off to the Worlds in Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about, what happened there?
Yeah, well, that was it was the biggest race of the year for me. I really had a big training block focused on that race, and I was feeling really good for the race. I tapered fully, and I'd actually reconned the bike course twice. I actually rode the descent, which is where I ended up crashing twice before the race, so I felt really ready. And unfortunately, in the race, I was in a good position. Like, I was in a pretty good position on the bike. I was in 22nd place, I believe, and I was descending. I was on my own and following my plan, and then another athlete passed me, Eric Lagerstrom, who's a phenomenal descender on a bike. He spent a lot of time in mountains and just a ton of time on a bike in his life, and he's just very skilled, and I decided to try to go with him. And that was where I kind of made my mistake, because I needed to follow my own lines and my own visual cues, but I was basing it off of him. And of course, when you're watching someone else, there's always a bit of a delay. So he would slow down, and then by the time I slowed down, it was a little later. So going into a sharp turn, they're all blind turns, because there's like a wall on the side where you're turning into, so you can't see the end. And I thought it was kind of more of a gradual turn, and it was actually a very sharp turn once I got past the first part. So I couldn't slow down in time, and I slid basically off the road and then flew off my bike and crashed into a post with my shoulder. So I hit my shoulder right here on the back. I was kind of rolling, and my scapula broke into about a dozen pieces, and my collarbone broke right at the end. And that was basically it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, well, it took about 3.5 hours to get to the hospital, unfortunately, just because of where I crashed. It was this remote kind of mountain road in France, and with all the athletes on the course still, the ambulance really had to be careful on the way down and drive really slowly, and that was probably that was the most difficult part of the whole thing, was from the crash to getting to the hospital, because with the bumpy and windy roads, like, the movement caused in my shoulder was causing excruciating pain, so it was really tough. Once I got to the hospital, I was able to at least stay reasonably still, and that kind of allowed me to feel a little bit better. But I mean, they were just overwhelmed with athletes, because it was such a dangerous course that there was, and even though I was probably the first one to crash, or one of the first, I was so far up the mountain that I was one of the last ones to arrive. So I was like in that hospital for about 8 hours, and just
A lot of people, when they heard that you had broken your shoulder and everything, big fear that was a career-ending injury. Did that ever cross your mind?
It definitely did. it crossed my mind briefly before I kind of saw any doctors, but one of the first things that the doctor said back in Canada was that I think you're going to make a full recovery from this. Full recovery to the extent of being able to swim like I could before, being able to bike and run like I could. He said, if I was a baseball pitcher, then I probably would never pitch again, because as triathletes, we're operating at a much lower than maximal kind of load on our bodies, and it's limited by our endurance, not our
Right.
kind of peak force. So I may not be able to do a 50-meter sprint as fast as I could ever again. That's possible, but when we're operating at an aerobic level, for the most part, I shouldn't have any problems. It might affect my training a little bit. We'll see, but I think I'm going to come back, because there's no other way to think. Like, I just have to think I'm coming back, and it's just a matter of doing that every day, whatever I can to do that. So that's my mindset, and I'll just see where it gets me as time goes on.
For you, it's been, I don't know if a long journey, but it's been, quite a journey to getting to the point where you're, winning 70.3 races amongst the best in the world over that distance. I'm guessing it'll be pretty damn satisfying to be back doing that again next summer.
Yeah, for sure. At this point, it's, once you've had like you said, like it could have been a career-ending injury, or, I mean, at the time I still had 4 or 5 races planned for the year, so it felt like a big, loss for me to miss out on all those races, and it was, but just to be able to go back and race again is like, it's now I have a whole new appreciation for just being able to go and train at a high level and race at a high level. So I'm trying not to set too many expectations for, what I'll be able to do in terms of results, but it really makes you appreciate once you have something that you can't do anymore. Like, I couldn't swim, I could hardly move for weeks. So just to be able to go and do that again it feels amazing, and it will feel amazing when I can do it more. I mean, I'm swimming 2 minutes per 100 if I'm lucky for a 100 right now, so that's gonna have to come down a lot. But just the first time I was able to get in the water was amazing, and I'm sure it'll be the same the first time I do anything, the first time I race again, the first time even the first time I actually can sprint in the water or do some efforts. Like, those things are all gonna be good experiences, so I'm looking forward to it. This might be a little setback, but in the long term, if anything, I'll be stronger for this with all the lessons I've learned. And I've had a lot of time to reflect on, what have I done with my career? What have I done in my training? What things have worked for me? What haven't? And really honed in on what I think works for me. And this year, I think my training is going to improve a lot, and I think I'll be even better for it once I've kind of got past this setback.
You might have already answered.
In the grand scheme of things, people have come back from worse and still been better than they were before the injury. So I know I can do the same thing. It's just a matter of just doing it, getting to work and doing it.
Well, it sounds like you are well on your way, and I'm looking forward to a fantastic season next year. But don't rush it.
I'll try not to. Just not re-injuring myself will be a victory. So
there you go. That's a good, very simple goals. Well, this is Jackson Laundry, well on his way on the recovery front. I'm Kevin McKinnon. Thanks for joining us here at Triathlon Magazine Canada.